They didn't want to be there. They were diverted to the Los Rodeos airport in Tenerife because of circumstances outside of their control, and now they're stuck here and they can't wait to get out. Captain Van Zanten of the KLM Flight 4805 is particularly eager to leave because if he doesn't depart soon, he will reach his duty limit, which means that he and his crew will be obligated to rest for 12 hours, which means he won't be able to get back home until the next day, but he really wants to get to Amsterdam and his family that evening. What we have here in the Tenerife airport on March 27, 1977, is a bunch of planes that arrived here unexpectedly, and now they're stuck in an airport that is too small and unprepared for them. In thick fog, you can't see anything. Everything is taking too long. Everyone is getting impatient. The passengers are getting angry. And the guy in the control tower is slow, confusing, and possibly watching a football match at the same time as he's talking to them. I'm no aviation expert. I'm not here to do an air crash investigation. You should watch this video for that. But I am here to talk about decision making and leadership, because that is what I do. We have a captain that really wants to get home. And we have a series of factors that are going to complicate communication, decision making, and add on to the stress. Our captain is a very senior captain. Jacob Van Zanten is the chief flight instructor for KLM, for the entire airline. But based on what we know about him, he is actually not a bad individual. A colleague said this about him. So what we appear to have here is a reasonable individual who wants to be approachable and wants to have a healthy working environment in the cockpit. It's also worth mentioning that the Dutch culture as a whole is one of the more egalitarian culture in the whole world. It is, statistically speaking, less likely to find someone from this culture who is just going to steamroll over the objections of his juniors and just do whatever he wants. And yet, this is exactly what's going to soon happen, leading to the worst aircraft disaster in history. We reach the key moment. We have the KLM flight sitting at the end of the runway, facing the runway, ready to take off. It's still thick fog. They can't see anything. Not only can they not see until the end of the runway, they can barely see 100 meters in front of them. They're waiting. There is another plane on the runway, another Boeing 747, a Pan Am flight, and it's coming down the runway towards the KLM flight, moving very slowly, taxiing because of the fog. They're supposed to at some point take a left and get off the runway, at which point the KLM flight will be able to take off. KLM is aware of this, Pan Am is aware of this, Tower is aware of this. Everybody knows what is the situation, in general terms at least. Pan Am is moving very slowly. They don't know exactly which exit to take, so there's a bit of delay and confusion in that. Impatiently, KLM gets on the radio and tells the tower that, hey, we're here and we're ready to take off, to rush things along. In response to that, tower gives them the details for their departure. You're going to climb to this altitude on this heading, and then you're going to go to that heading, and so on and so on. Crucially, he doesn't actually give them a takeoff clearance. He doesn't allow them to take off. He's just giving them the departure information so they can prepare. The impatient KLM flight captain, upon hearing that, just says, let's go. And he pushes the throttle to power the engines. Their plane starts moving. A second and a half later, after the previous communication, Tower follows up on the radio and says, stand by for the takeoff, I'll get back to you. But that transmission doesn't reach the KLM cockpit because of a radio issue. All they hear in the KLM cockpit is interference, K, interference. At this point, the KLM plane has already started moving and picking up speed. That should not have happened. They did not have a takeoff clearance. But even without a takeoff clearance, hearing interference, K, interference, should not serve, you think, as confirmation that, hey, we're doing the right thing. We have the takeoff clearance. That he kind of said, okay. But instead should actually raise more concerns and questions and make you think twice if you're doing the right thing. That is not a difficult conclusion to reach when you're sitting at your table and you're thinking of the problem rationally. But the KLM captain interpreted that K as additional confirmation that they have the clearance to take off. Just a little bit later, another radio transmission is heard, this time clearly heard, coming from the Pan Am flight. And the Pan Am transmission was, okay, we'll report when we're clear. How would you interpret such a statement? We will report when we are clear. Obviously, it follows, logically, that we are not yet clear at this moment in time. The Pan Am flight was still on the runway. This was heard in the KLM cockpit, and the flight engineer in the back actually raised it to the captain. Is he not clear then? To which the KLM captain confidently responded with, "Oh yes," and kept on rolling down. Less than a second later, they see the Pan Am Boeing coming out of the fog, but it's too late to do anything, and the last sound we hear on the KLM CVR is screams. Look, there's a lot of detail we could go into here. Confirmation bias, selection bias, tunnel vision, all those things. We can have a very sophisticated conversation about the psychology of decision making. But I will keep it very simple, and I will just talk about thinking fast and thinking slow. System 1 and System 2. System 1, thinking fast, is how we make most decisions throughout the day. It's intuition, it's instinct, it's pattern recognition, quickly making connections. We have a hunch, we have a feeling, we're not even sure why and how. We just quickly figure something out and we act decisively. It's a great system. It's essential for life and it has helped us in so many situations. But it is not 100% foolproof. It is subject to errors. It is subject to biases. It is subject to misjudgment. It is subject to misinterpretation. It's a good enough but very, very fast system. So that's the trade-off. It's not perfect, but it's very fast. System 2 is the other thinking system. It is the complete opposite. Slow, completely rational, calculated, logical. You can explain your thinking. You can justify your thinking. You have a clear reason for everything. You understand every step of your reasoning process. If you do this carefully, it is basically foolproof. However, it's very slow. In another universe, Van Zanten might have been out at a restaurant with friends and he got carried away and said, "I will order that very spicy food." And his friends would ask him, "Are you sure? That's really, really spicy." And he would be like, "Definitely, I am totally sure." And at some point, the waiter also comes and says, "Are you sure, sir? This is exceptionally spicy." But Van Zanten is like full in, he's like, "Absolutely," and he's gonna YOLO it. It turned out the food was way too spicy for him, but, all that got out of it was some friendly laughs. No harm, no foul. This is the kind of System 1 thinking where you get carried away with a bit of excitement, impatience, and I'm just gonna send it. This is not the system to use at the controls of a Boeing 747, but that is exactly how he thought at the controls of his plane. He got carried away. He got impatient, he got emotional, he got impulsive. And he should have been in System 2, slow, deliberate, rational, logical. That's why the airline world is full of process and procedure, to slow you down. Slow everything down. Take it step by step, repeatably, logically, rationally. Despite what Maverick might say,
"Don't think, just do."
This is no time for instinct. But no human is ever just System 2. Even the more calculated personalities among us in any given day, we constantly move between System 1 and System 2. And to be honest, most of the things that we do are System 1. And that makes perfect sense when you're deciding if you're just gonna YOLO on that spicy food. But when you get into certain situations, when you're doing things which have to be done right, we have to deliberately make this switch and put System 1 away and calm down and chill down and don't let emotions, don't let stress, don't let all these agitating factors get us out of the logical, deliberate, rational way of doing things in System 2. People will be people. There is no proof Van Zanten was a bad pilot overall. From the contrary. But he did have a very bad day with some very bad decisions. Unluckily so, all the other things that could have compensated for his bad decisions and prevent the tragedy also failed on that day. The same day, the same captain, the same bad decisions, but if there's just a little bit less fog, no problem. They will see and avoid. If they would have had ground radar, no problem. Tower would have seen they were moving without clearance and just tell them to stop. If control tower would have been more clear, more assertive, more on top of their game. If there had been no issues with the radio communications, probably no problem. But it just so happened that all these things failed and everything lined up for tragedy. And that's why you should never rely on others to keep you safe. Sure, some things are out of our control. But when you're the controls of a 747 and you're doubtful that the runway is clear and all you have to do to make sure is ask again and you don't do it, sometimes the line between life and death is as thin as that. Someone should have asked one more time and they didn't.